So were you able to hold a calling or anything like that as an out gay?
No, no, at that point, I had already been disfellowshipped. And it worked really well for me because I was kind of ready to not have a calling in the church. Anyone who knows uh, LDS folks, they work a lot in the church. And if you're a true believing person, it works really well. But at that point in my life, I was not looking to go teach a Sunday school class because I was in a different place and or have some other calling. So it worked well because I could go attend, and I didn't have the expectation of that additional calling within the church.
So you were disfellowshipped. What does that mean?
What happened was I had communicated with my bishop that I was actively dating men, and he kind of understood what that all meant. And it not only could it mean some things as far as the law, living the law of chastity or sexual purity or something, but it also kind of meant I was going a different direction. And so they had a council with a few of the people in the bishopric, and I explained to several people there, 4 or 5 people, where I was at, and what I planned, not only where I was at today, but kind of where I was planning. And they then had me leave the room, and they kind of convened, and they came back, and they said, we think it would be appropriate for you to be disfellowshipped. And I was like this, I was Sunday school president or something before that, a few months before. So I was kind of relieved. It was a good change, but formally now I was not a full active member. I couldn't attend the temple anymore. I couldn't have a calling anymore. And honestly, for me, it was the right time to do that.
And you stopped wearing your garments at that point?
I think it was right about that same point. I had, it's a hard habit to break with garments because for men, they're pretty comfortable. um, and and you get a bunch of them, you don't want to throw them all away. So I can't remember when exactly it was. I don't think I was ever told not to wear them, but there was a time where I gradually stopped wearing them. But there was a period of about 4 or 5 years where I was going to wards. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do, and I was active. I was dating men from time to time, and then I did date a girl every now and then, as I was still exploring and kind of figuring this thing out. And that was about 5 years until I decided. It was probably more like 3 or 4 years, and then a year or two where it was very clear that I only wanted to date men, and that was when I finally decided to come out publicly. My family all knew at that point. I had told my family, I'd told my nieces and nephews, and it was kind of a family secret. And it got to the point where I had family members who kept asking me, "So who are you dating? Are you ever going to get married to this girl?" Or "I got someone to set you up with." And I come from a big family. I have over 50 first cousins on both sides of my family. So I have over 100 first cousins. So I got set up a lot. And it came time where I wanted all of them to know where I was at. And this was, 2013 was when I finally came out.
What did you do? Was it a family reunion? Was it a wedding? Like, when did you decide to? I mean, because you had all of them there, like all 100 cousins.
It, it would have been impossible, and I would not want to do that at a family reunion too. It probably wouldn't have gone that well. But I wanted all of my family members to have to hear it from me instead of hear it through that game you play as a kid, telephone, where you'd say one thing and it gets spread around. So I started thinking about how to do it, and it became really clear that I needed to do it, and I decided to do a video. And I had written up this whole script, and I said it many times, and I have this friend, His name's Kendall Wilcox. He used to work for BYU as a documentary filmmaker for BYU, and he's also gay. And I asked him if he would come and record it and for me, and he said, "Hey, I'd be happy to." So he came to my place, and I told him, "Yeah, I'm just going to read the script. If you don't mind, just kind of recording it." And he said, "Yeah, sure." So I said the script and I read it, and then he got all his camera and everything set up, and he said, "You know what? Just do it without the script. I think you know what the script says. Just kind of talk." And I was like, "Oh, really? I kind of want to just make sure I say everything right." He said, "Well, just try it, and if it doesn't work, we'll do it again." So I just put the script aside, and I just basically looked up and started talking. And then when I was done, I kind of looked at him, and he said, "That was perfect." He said, "I think that's what you should use." And he said, "Well, all right, let's do it." So at the time, Facebook was the big thing. So this is 2013. So I posted it on Facebook on a Sunday morning, I remember, and had no idea what the response would be, but it was all positive, not only to me, but also to family and friends who people messaged. I know there was a lot of communication from people separate and
Yeah. Okay. So is what you're talking about, that is the YouTube video that we saw. This isn't something separate that you made for your family.
yeah. So I think Brandon saw that day, and I just posted it for everyone, including mission friends. I just put it on my social media, and then they spread it around, and people shared it quite a bit, which I was fine with. And it was kind of a somber video because I knew that. I mean, that was how I was feeling.
I
But
I remember I remember sensing that there was pain behind it.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I remember, is I remember thinking you were struggling.
Facing stuff that I didn't want to face. Um, we all want to just have a nice life, right? We all just want to have good relationships, and that's all I ever wanted, right? Just have a nice life, and with all the gifts that I've been given, and what's the scripture, unto much is given, much is required, and I felt like I had a great life, so I need to I never wanted to do anything but that, and give back, and serve, and help people around me. And so I felt like there was a lot of years kind of leading up to this where I didn't want to share that burden with other people. I didn't want to rattle the hornet's nest. But it came a point where we just have to be honest with things, and let people deal with it. We're adults, and that's really what that video was, hey, I'm just going to be honest and share this, and you all can just deal with it, because I've been dealing with it alone for a long time.
Did you get any negative responses?
That day I didn't. A few months later, I remember I had some family that went with me to a affirmation event. An affirmation is a LGBT Mormon community, and they are affirming of gay people, of gay relationships. It's very different from North Star, that I was involved with before, which is you can be same-sex attracted, but you still have to follow the church teachings. So affirmation is more affirming, and most people are not actively involved in church, although some are.
In the Mormon church or other churches, or is this just
It's Mormon.
It's
Mormon
okay.
church. Yeah. And
is this through the Mormon church, or is this something just separate?
No, it's not through the church at all, because the church does not endorse it at all. It's more affirming, but since we share that common heritage and background, it's really nice to have a community there. So I got very involved with that community, and I was on the board for a period of time. We had an event.
Does it still exist?
Yeah, it still exists. especially when you're first going through this, it's really helpful to have a community. And I met friends that I'm still friends with there. And then there's a period of time where um, there comes a point where you kind of need to leave and go do your own thing. That's what it meant for me after maybe a year of being involved. But we held a big event in Salt Lake City, and our speaker was Steve Young and his wife. Steve Young's wife has a gay brother, and she's a convert to the church. And so he was the keynote speaker. So it was an exciting event. And Steve is still an active member of the church, but also believes that the church needs to reach out to LGBT members. And I remember, my mom was there. I had my brother and his wife, and I believe my sister was there also. And we posted some of that on social media. And I remember one family member saying, "I'm very disappointed in Steve Young, and I'm very disappointed in my family here for attending." And, you know, that was a little bit surprising that they would be so surprised that there would be some reach out to people. But I was not really angry with it. And that family member I've seen a few times, and I was actually pretty close with him earlier in my life. But then once I came out, he kind of changed his approach to me. Not much though. That like I said, I have over 100 first cousins, and I think that's the only time that I've heard anything negative was in that when we posted those pictures from that event.
Do you wish that you would have come out earlier?
Oh yeah, I have a nephew that's also gay, and he came out when he was 16 or 17, and I just thought this is so much better for him. He also grew up in Idaho Falls. You have to be at a certain place in your life to come out, and these in his case, to be able to be comfortable enough with yourself to know the world that we live in and the way that people are going to judge you, and to just come out anyway and be honest with yourself, I think takes so much courage. And it's almost like the little chickling that's coming out of her eggshell. They kind of have to push, and they have to be strong enough to get out of the eggshell. And if they get out of that eggshell, now they're strong enough to go face the world. And I think that's what the coming out process is. I actually like the coming out process. I think it's important. Nowadays, some of the younger gay kids, they don't even have to come out. They just bring somebody home who they're dating, and everyone just says, "Oh, okay." But I do think for those of us who choose to come out, it's a great process. And I just wish I had owned it a little earlier. I had to kind of go the hard way and try it all out. And some of that was part of the time that I was living, and the era that I was living, and what I understood. And I think if I understood things sooner, I would have been able to come out a lot sooner. I have friends who just come out, in recent years after being married to women, after trying to live a life that isn't them. And now here they are in their 60s, and they're trying to go find a partner. They're trying to date, and God bless them. And I'm happy to see that, and I love it. And I'm also just wish, they had done it earlier, because our life is short. And I know they wish, and they tell me they wish they had done it earlier. You're just going to regret that time. Why waste those years in that misery? Just come out and do it, and live your life. And I wish I had done it a lot earlier.
Do you feel like if you would have been born in a different time, or there would have been the technology that we have now, like the social media, things like that, that you would have been able to even hear other people's stories, even podcasts sharing that story? Do you feel like that would have helped you be able to come out earlier?
Absolutely. And I also, Uh, I would have loved to have come out. I might have even come out before my mission and then still gone on a mission as an out gay person, because there are kids that are doing that now. As long as they're living the gospel, that's allowed now. Because I would not, I would not change anything about my mission experience, except that would have been kind of cool if I could have just been out, because you're able to have conversations with people at a depth that you couldn't otherwise. You know, the big thing that helped me coming out too was living in New York City, because coming from Idaho and Utah, what you see there are straight couples, straight families, and those are the people that are happy. And you hear that the gay people are the unhappy ones, the miserable ones, the deviant ones. And when I moved to New York City and I met all these normal gay people just living their life, and you know, I'm working in a big investment bank, and the guy down the hall leads the whole division is got a husband, and he has two young kids, and I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that could be me. And so New York was where I was like, why have I been wasting all this time? I could have just been living my life and just be like that guy. But I'd never seen that before. And so things like this, and this podcast, and this is why I like to still do this, because maybe there are still people who are there, and if I could speak to my younger self and that they could see me where I'm at now, even having gone through the struggle, just to know that, you know, life is great, and you can have a great life, you can have a spiritual life as a gay person. You can be doing God's work as a gay person. That is not a requirement.
What do you think is the biggest fear before coming out for most people?
I think that it's kind of like any time you get some accountability, where for me, I still kind of wanted to say, well, maybe I'll actually just date a girl. Maybe this will work out. Maybe I'll date a woman. But once you come out, it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle.
But you tried, you did, you went and meandered back and forth.
Yeah, but after I came out, I knew for sure that I was not going to go back. I haven't dated a woman since for 13, 14 years, and I don't want to date a woman.
That's
I
how
love I
long,
love
that's
women.
how
Nothing against
long,
women, but I just no,
yeah. So
not
is that
I
how long
don't.
it was, 13 to 14 years between you handing in that temple recommend and then you making that video? Was it
That
13
was
years?
no, that was about 5 years. But now, because I came out in 2013, so once I decided to come out, you really have to know. You really have to know, like, you're gonna do this, and I think that's part of why, there are still people, even with our more accepting society, there are still people who are not out. They're still, maybe they're bisexual, or they're still trying to figure things out, and usually they're not happy. Usually being hiding things and being uncertain about your life is usually a difficult place to be in. It's best to make a decision, move with it, and go forward.
So do you feel like I I guess I would think that everyone's biggest fear would be that your family wouldn't love you as much, or that they're not going to be accepting, or that you'll lose your family, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Before I came out, I kind of did a soft come out, where I basically told them I was, bisexual. I was dating women. But this was something that was going on in my life, and I gave them a plan as to how I was going to overcome that. And that was when I actually came out to my family. So I didn't have to deal with that as much as someone who's coming out all at once, including their family, because I kind of made it easy on my family. And then I gradually, over many years, came to the reality that I was gay, not bisexual, and I was going to be with a man. And that gave them a bit of time to prepare for that.
Was your family receptive?
My siblings and their spouses have been awesome. They were absolutely receptive. and they got it from the beginning. My parents took a little bit longer, and my parents are still. I don't even know how they feel about and think about it from a church standpoint. I know we in our home, my home that I have with my husband, we have a picture. We have the Christus statue there. My parents gave it to us for our wedding present, and we also have Buddha over there, and we have many things. But I love that, and um, and so I think my parents are kind of in their own way, figuring they're kind of a pioneer in their own way of figuring out how to deal with this, and I've given them enough time. So I think that's an important thing for people coming out is in some ways it's better to send people a letter or video rather than to tell them in person, because they need to go through their own grieving process, their own process, and sometimes seeing that reaction in real time is not great for you. But then maybe put that out to them and then give them a few days before you have a conversation or have a meeting. And in my case, maybe it's been more like 10 years. I mean, it's been 13 years since I came out, and more like 16 or 17 years since I came out to my parents before I actually got married. So I think they're ready for it. That should be enough time. And if it's not enough time, if that's not enough time, it's never going to be enough time. But to their credit, they wanted to be at the wedding. They've stayed in my home since with my husband. I've stayed in their home, and I think that they've gone through their own journey, and I'm just glad with where they're at now.
Yeah, I think that's also like a generational thing, don't you think too? Is that it's
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a generational thing. Like I feel like my parents would have a really hard time, and they're not religious at all, but just that was not something that was accepted in society at the time, and I think it's kind of also it kind of goes hand in hand with even racism a little bit. Like when we were in school, like we're taught more, I don't want to use the word tolerance, but that we're more accepting of everybody. And then I also have noticed then in my children's generation is that they're even more like they don't care what you do as long as you don't harm me. Like they're very accepting, like everybody is everything. Like you can dress up as an animal if you want and be a furry, and that's totally okay. Do you know what I mean? Like whereas like us, I'd be like, that's odd, like, but it just seems like for every generation it just gets more accepting, more broad, right? Like
Yeah, and things have changed so dramatically. In 60 years ago, in the state of Idaho, it was against the law to be homosexual. They were there's a thing on 60 Minutes where the police in Idaho were hunting down people who were gay
what? How long ago was this?
because of sodomy laws. Yeah, and this is only 60 years ago. This is in the 1960s and 70s. 80s, with AIDS, then that kind of shifted things because but probably in a negative way, there was some sympathy from some people, and then there was a lot of, pointing at how that's caused by homosexuality, and that they're, God's punishing them. Today, AIDS is a bigger issue among heterosexuals than gay people, and it's more of a problem in Africa and among straight women than anyone. But at the time that it was pointed that AIDS was a big deal in the 80s and 90s, and many people died. So it was only not that long ago we were in a very different place, and if you see the acceptance and the change of opinions of gay marriage, that really started in the early 2000s, but it was only 10 years ago where you could get married. Before then, we couldn't get married, and my partner's from Dominican Republic. He couldn't have moved here even if we were married in our state, unless that was passed at a national level so that we could be together. So the world has changed quickly, and as far as this issue, and so I think us in the LGBT community need to kind of realize that is we've got so much acceptance so quickly that it does take time for people to go through this and process this. Even when it comes to the right labels, and you were mentioning before, I want to make sure I say things correctly, and I think that's the right attitude to have. And then our attitude needs to be, it's okay, we're going to give you some grace. If you say it wrong, don't worry about it. Like, we can't be so uptight about that when this is all so new for people. We need to give
Listen,
people.
I won't even say like LGBTQ because I'm like, did I say the right letters? Like, I'm like, so I have a really hard time with it because I'm like, I don't want to mess up. And but yeah, you're right. Like, it's all about education and not getting offended and being able to say like, hey, guess what, Mel? Like, you can't say that, and then just tell me why. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now I know. Thank you. Didn't mean to
Yeah,
offend you.
and obviously there's people who are belligerent and people who are haters and people who are never going to um, accept people who are different, and there's bullies. All of that's just a bunch of BS, and I'm the first one to, that stuff drives me crazy. But I think we we also just need to see where we've come from, and we need to keep getting people's buy-in. No matter if it's a trans person or a gay person, we have to keep helping them to understand it. We have to educate them, and we have to let them see our lives, and we have to live our own lives. It can't all be about politics, and it's all about it. So many people get wrapped up in this, and then they're like, well, their life, they've forgotten about their life. So all these things change, and if that's not helping you live a good life, then what's the purpose of it all? Our lives are what's most important, so we need to focus on ourselves, making sure we're living our good life. Sometimes, in the case of gay marriage, it's happened on its own. I mean, there was a lot of activism that helped push that, but people started seeing people and meeting people and seeing their lives, and that's why people's opinions changed, not because we were shoving it down their throat.
Do you have advice for family members, whether it's parents, siblings, even, I mean, yeah, even friends, I guess, like when somebody does come out, no matter what it is. I mean, whether it's that they're trans, gay, bi, even like, even people that are like polyamorous. Like, I feel like those are also things that are really hard for people to understand and to accept. Like, do you have any advice of how, like, I guess how we could respond to that?
Yeah, I've watched the people in my life that have been very helpful and supportive, and you know what? They just mind their own business. Like, we don't need to judge other people's lives. Focus on what you're doing, and then the people that are around you, just love them and support them. There's some things out there that are going to be different, and you're not going to change somebody's you're not going to change somebody by judging them or by condemning them. You're just going to impact your relationship with them. And so the people in my life, like I said, I don't know how everyone in my life even views things politically, gay marriage or gay rights. All I know is the people in my life that are there for me and that have cared for me, and they're from every walk. They're from every political side, and we don't dwell on this stuff. We're focused on the things we have in common, and we focus on living our lives and our interests and our hobbies. And I think people just need to mind their own business a bit more, and all this external stuff about it only makes us miserable. Like, we don't have any control over that. What we have control of is what I'm doing, what am I working on, and how do I treat other people. Like, those are the people I can work with. If somebody does that, I know I can have a great relationship with them. I know they're going to have a great relationship with their kids. I met somebody who was just a gentle um, uh, dad, who was a big, straight dad, and he was talking to me about when his son came out to him, and he told me what his response was, and his response was, I don't know anything about this. I've never known a gay person, but I can just tell you, I am with you 100%. You're my kid. I love you. And then he asked me, he said, I don't know if that was the right response. And I said, that is the 100% right response. That kid is lucky he has you. That's exactly and all you need to do. You just keep doing that, and that's 100% what that kid needs.
I feel like that is probably one of the most Christ-like things as well. Like the best response. That's why I do have a little bit of a hard time with the Mormon church. I had a hard time when that law that was made that the children were not going to be able to be baptized until they were 18 if their parents were gay. And I just remember thinking, like, I just don't believe that, like, I don't believe that Heavenly Father would be okay with this with his children. Because I truly don't believe that a Heavenly Father would love their child less. And like you said, God could have taken that away from you, but he didn't. Like, if we believe that he has all of this power, he could have done that. He could have taken that away from you, and he chose not to. And so I I do have a really hard time with that aspect, and I'm just curious, like, is there a way that you could be a gay Mormon and still be an active member of the church?
That was when that policy came out. That's when I stopped going to my church, um, because for all the same reasons that you just mentioned. But um, I didn't like the idea, and they did change it back a few years later, which I'm always down if somebody makes a mistake, if they reverse that mistake later. Um, but I don't like the idea that they could do it again. It's kind of seemed very reactionary. It was actually reactionary to when Supreme Court approved gay marriage. It was shortly thereafter the church came out with that policy, and I just knew that it was not a place for me or my family, my kids, my spouse. And I had taken um, people who I dated with to church before. We were active in ward in Scottsdale. When we lived here before, I was active and involved in my wards in New York. But it was at that point I was like, this church isn't for gay people. And when you look at leadership, and especially LDS leadership, they're smart people and they know what they're doing. So when they decided to come out with that policy, it was a message of the strategy of what they want to do to how to run the church. So it was really clear they don't want me and my kids there. I get it. I had family members that had conversations with that week who were very hopeful the church would be a bit more accepting of gay people, and that really hurt them. That's part of the LDS church, is that in one moment they can change what the doctrine is with a general conference talk, similar to like the Pope at the Catholic Church. They can change things, and I also don't like that risk, because they may change things and make it more difficult for gay people, when I think it should be the opposite. I think they should welcome back gay people. I think my family would probably be a good LDS family to have in the ward. I think we're gonna, we'd serve, we'd do everything. We'd even have to probably pay tithing if they'd welcome us back, but we're not welcome there. and and that was really clear in what they came out with. And I think the other thing to keep in mind, this is something Carolyn Pearson used to say, who she wrote the children's hymn, "I'll Walk with You," that's in the children hymn book. She said, ever since the church has been so against gay people, the music and the choir in the church the quality's gone way down. So if we wanted, and I was in my parents' ward a few months ago, I went to them for Christmas for church, and my husband did. They could use a little bit more quality in the choir. If they want to let some of the gay people back, that's a benefit for everybody.
Oh, well, in my opinion, I feel like they should allow to have like instruments. I go to these
Yeah,
yes, I go to these churches and I'm like, why don't we get to have a freaking electric guitar? Like, that's fun. I want to be up on my feet, like singing and dancing. Like, 100%, that's how I want to celebrate God.
yeah, it's a different quality when you can't have instruments, and some of the best singers, in these churches and growing up in choirs are gay people,
Are you a
and they're
really
not
good
allowed.
singer?
I'm actually not that good, but
My
the
husband is in the corner and he's like, yes, he was. He was really good.
well, there's that was something that used to be really big to local churches, is the choir, right? And now the best choirs are the gay men's choir. So there's a gay men's choir in Phoenix. There's one in all these big cities, and it's amazing. And okay, if you want to have bad choirs, then we'll go somewhere else and sing. But I mean, you got to look at some of these simple benefits to that would benefit the whole church. And there are a lot of gay men in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. So there are some who are out. They're active. They're staying in the following the church teachings, and you have to be in the Mormon
So
Tabernacle
what
Choir.
are
But
what
there's
are the
always been
rules?
gay men in the Tabernacle Choir.
What are the rules there then? Like, because that's a calling, right?
Yeah, it's a calling.
Yeah. So what are the rules, I guess, for gay Mormons in order to be active in the church? Like, how does that work?
You can be a member in good standing as long as you don't act on it.
And what does that
Um,
mean?
um, I think you definitely cannot have a partner. You cannot have a boyfriend. You cannot live with a man. You cannot be married to a man. I'm sure that they're okay with pornography and those types of things, and I think they're okay with holding hands with other men and maybe even kissing other men. I don't know. I don't. To me, it's just silly to split hairs, and they do that a lot at BYU and BYU-Idaho. If there's gay kids there, well, you can do this, you can't do this. I'm like, why live life that way? Like, just let people what Joseph Smith say, teach them correct principles and let them govern themselves. But instead, they get really specific with like the BYU disciplinary councils that they have there. But anyway, I do know there are gay men in the choir. I'm friends with them, and they're out, but they must be following the guidelines, or at least saying they're following the guidelines to stay in. I know some do follow the guidelines, and they're very clear about that, so that they can stay in the choir. And then I've known some that when they left the choir, then they've it's been a big transition for them because it's such a big part of their life, and it's difficult to leave. And I know I've known some who have then started dating after that, but they love the choir so much that it's worth it for them to follow the church teachings, to be part of it. And it's a
So
good choir.
so
It's
even
one
if you're following like even if you're following the law of chastity as a gay person, and you are, only kissing, right? And then but, and then you go to get married, and now you are not having premarital sex, right? Like, you're living the law of chastity within marriage, even though it's with same sex, right? We'll use
right.
the
The
church term.
lingo, yeah.
Um, so you still are not. living like living what would you call that? Like living the gospel or being active or righteous or whatever,
Yeah.
good
Within
standing.
the church, yeah, and it's living the law of chastity. So the
So if
only
you
way you
are living
can,
the law of chastity, right? Like, but because you're married, you're only having sex with your husband. You're not having sex outside of marriage, and you're doing all the things as a normal a man and a man and a woman would be doing. You're doing everything the same. Are you still considered like not in good standing, I guess?
yeah, no, you're the only way you can be sexually active is if you're heterosexual in good standing. So otherwise, if you're heterosexual and you're married. So if you're single, if you're not married, you can't be sexually active. If you're gay, you can't be sexually active. So the choice is you can be celibate as a gay person or a
Okay, so
single
you have to be
person.
celibate.
You can be celibate, and that's the real choice. Or you can marry a woman, um, and that's your choice if you want to follow the church path. And both of those choices for me, I tried both of them actually. Tried both of them, and they didn't make sense for me.
So I had a friend that had told me that basically that the Mormon church is definitely accepting of gays, and that as long as you are living the law of chastity just the same as you would as a man and a woman, and you're doing all those things, then you are still entitled to the same things as you would, no matter, no, you know what I mean, whether it's with a man or a woman or a man and a man or a female and a female.
For the youth, I think that that's the case. Uh, but then if someone gets married or if they enter into a relationship later on, then then that doesn't work. But if you're a 16 or 17-year-old out gay kid, I think the wards are accepting of that. I think the church is okay with that as long as they don't act on it. The same as a straight couple, but
They were aware that you were also had those tendencies. Would you call them tendencies? I don't,
sure.
but they were, but your bishop was aware, right? So you came out to your bishop in a way, and so you were still allowed to go on a mission,
Yep.
but you just can't, there's no way possible for a gay couple to be married and to be able to get a temple recommend
No, 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 no,
to hold a calling. That is not
no,
possible.
no, no. And I think that they've been very clear on that, and so that's not. Then they're nowhere near okay with that.
Okay, so what would you say to people that say that the Mormon church is accepting of gays?
That would be cool if that's been their experience because there are some wards and branches that are more accepting. Um, I think my ward here in Central Phoenix would be accepting if we wanted to go to our ward. We wouldn't be able to have a temple recommend, so we couldn't be in full fellowship, but we could go and attend, and I think they would be happy to have us attend. But then, you have to think about what that means. I'm not going to take my kids into that environment. I'm not going to take my husband in that environment because we might hear a talk or a Sunday school talk or a lesson that talks about why homosexuality is wrong. So why would I go there? It's like, it's like somebody who's in AA and they show up at a bar. It's not the right place to be. So it's not the right place for us to be.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense. I get
but,
that.
but I'm at least glad that if you are a youth um, and you are gay, I hope the church should be totally accepting of those kids because those kids don't have a choice. They're going with their parents, and their parents are making them go to church. And so for them to have to go, and then I'm only fearful that for those kids they might internalize some of the dogma about homosexuality because they're going to have to work through that. And I hope hopefully those parents are aware of that and kind of help them. but overall, the church is not the right place for gay people, and that's okay. It's just not. Um, but it's kind of like throwing Mormons in a Muslim temple. It's not the right place for the worship is way different. The lifestyle is way different, and gay people are not welcome in the church. The the church, you have to fit that mold. So, and that's okay. The church has every right to do that. They can say you got to do this, you got to do this to belong here. Of course. So that's why I left, because I didn't belong.
Is that really hard for you? Like, did you struggle with that? Because the Mormon church was something that, I mean, you loved it, you believed it, you put everything that you could into it. Your nickname was Mormon. You went out on your mission and absolutely crushed it, broke, baptism records by, over doubling it. Like how every single capacity that you served in the church, it sounds as though, I mean, you truly did your best. And so you had to have loved the church so much. Like, was that hard for you to not be accepted or realize that this was not the place for you?
Oh, it's so difficult, um, because the church is not just a church, it becomes your lifestyle. It's your community, it's everything. It's your path, it's your, not only is it your spiritual well-being, but it's your community, it's your family. And so that's why it took me so much time to really work through all those things. So difficult. I mean, there were times in my 20s when, I would leave church and I felt so good about that, what I had just experienced, that it was so such a part of my life that I wanted. And then, Monday come around and reality come around, and it was so difficult. And there was a time where I was never suicidal, but there was a time where I was like, you know what, if I'm in a place, a public event, and there's an active shooter, I'm down to just jump in front of the bullet. I'm good. Like, I'll do it.
Really?
um, because you almost have to start a whole new life. You have to start, you know, and could you lose your family? Could you lose friends? All that, and even if you don't lose them, you have to change everything and start a new path. So that's where it was. So I think that's part of it. But then there's a second part of it, and I have this now with my perspective, having, now I'm married to a man, and I came out 15 years ago. And the second part of it is, I've loved the adventure of creating a new path. Love it. I could not go back now, because I didn't know what I was missing. So I've been able to learn from my own mistakes. I've been able to go see the world. I've been able to see what kind of life do I want to live. How do I live a life in a way that I really want, that aligns with my insides and my spirit, and is going to be fulfilling. And so, that's one of the benefits of not being involved in the church anymore, is I write my own script now instead of following a template. So if I could go back and talk to that person in his 20s, I would say, I know it's hard right now. I know this is a difficult choice, but there's a lot of fun things in your future, and it's good. It's going to be exciting, and you're able to see the world and experience life, because what you're experiencing right now is just turmoil. There's a great life on the other side of this. And that's absolutely what it's been. And that second part is where I'm at today. And if I hadn't gone through everything I went through, I would never have the perspective that I have today.
I love that. But I mean, that seems so rare because like I have spoken with so many people that have left the Mormon church, and my husband included. He had a very difficult time. Like I remember like because when you have that plan, you have that path, like this is what you're supposed to do, this is your checklist, this is how you're going to make it to heaven, this is what you have to do. It's very easy, right, to say this is where we're at, this is what we have to do. But then I remember the first time that we had to kind of make our own decision of what we were going to do. And I think it was just, I think it was even just like drinking and just setting boundaries and being like, well, are we, are we okay if we drink when we're not together? Like it was stuff like that. And I remember him saying like, it was so strange that we get to make our own decision. And he didn't hardly know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the sad part is those are important things to learn as humans without just following a recipe and guidelines. And that's like that's part of where when you guys are experiencing this now, but it's also fun because you're able to go experience stuff that you've never been able to experience before and be your own master of what you want to do with your life. And I do think that there's value in the church where they just say, look, this box here, you gotta live in this. Now do all you can in that box. And people can do great things without those limitations. They just say, oh, okay, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do all of those things, and then it forces them to living within that, expand in some ways.
I mean, you call it a box, I'll call it a cage.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's how you know whether that box is right for you, that cage is right for you, whether you call it a box, whether you call it a cage. If it feels like a cage, you're probably not supposed to be in that box. There's probably more for you on the other side.
Yeah. Is that how you felt? It was like a cage?
I felt like I was up against a wall and I was done not moving because I knew there was other things available to me in my life.
Like you felt like you're up against a brick wall and it's like you can't move forward kind of a thing. Like you got to pivot, you got to find a different road.
Yeah, and then everyone else is, I'm here, and then it's kind of like that game where you're Pac-Man or whatever, you're stuck, but everyone else is moving, but you can't go anywhere.
And they're coming
And
at you. They're coming at you.
yeah,
What are you
yeah.
gonna do? You
I
gotta
knew it was
freaking move. If you don't move, like you're gonna die.
and maybe depending on where you guys are at in this stage, but I think you'd agree with me, but that there was definitely some pain in the transition. But you'd never go back. You wouldn't go back from where and maybe you're not saying that yet, but I think that's what my experience is with other friends who have gone through different transitions. And the other part of it is you can always go back. Maybe keep the option open. Maybe you say, look, maybe we'll have an epiphany in down the road, and we'll want that all again. You can always go back.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that there,
I
I
don't, I
mean,
don't think that's likely for you guys,
well,
but
I had to go to the same council meeting that you did. And, and they, of course, asked me to come back to church. And which is funny because I got excommunicated, by the way. And which I feel like what I've done is way less than what you've done. And,
I'm sure, no doubt.
and also I think that when right, if you have the priesthood, you're like supposed to be like held more accountable as well. So, um, yeah, you're held to a higher standard than us women. But yeah, no, I was excommunicated just for speaking on the podcast. I had not gone to church for 4 years at the time, 4.5 years, and nobody cared. The bishop never came to my house. Nobody checked on me, nothing. And then I start sharing my story, and then I get a letter. And so it was, yeah, I had to be in that same meeting, but he had wanted me to come back to church. And then obviously he needed me to do a podcast to publicly, like, what's it called? Like basically rescind everything that I said. Um, and I was like, well, what has changed? Like are these things all still in place? And he's like, yeah, they're, like I still stand by all of these because our stake decided to make more rules up on top of the already strict rules. And a lot of them were affecting my kids. And so I was like, I just can't bring my kids back to that. I can't, I, unless these things change, I'm not going to raise any of my kids in a church that's not okay with the fact that my daughter wants to be a doctor and that she wants to have a career and she doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to subject my kids to that sort of conditioning. I want them to believe that they can be whatever that they want to be and have their own dreams. And I don't think that my kids are going to go to hell for playing sports on Sunday. And I don't think that they shouldn't be able to have a temple recommend and not be able to do baptisms for the dead with everybody else. I don't think that that's fair just because they play a championship game on Sunday, and that my boys aren't going to be able to pass the sacrament because they play a sport on Sunday, even though they still went to church. Like I have a really hard time, and maybe for some, like it doesn't seem like it's big things, but like it is a public shaming when you have a kid that has to sit down and isn't able to pass the sacrament with the other boys in the ward because didn't they played a sport on Sunday. Well, they're wrapped in like to everybody else that are having sex with their girlfriends. Do you know what I mean? Like they look bad, and it's a public shaming thing where everyone's looking at them like they're these terrible kids because they can't pass the sacrament and they don't get to go do baptisms for the dead with everybody else.
Yeah, that's a uh, bad position to put your kids in. And I mean, I can see how as a parent I would be like, and it seems like some of that definitely has to do with the local leaders.
It does, yeah. Well, and
Sounds like
same
it's
thing,
pretty
and
hardcore.
you couldn't wear a bow tie if my boys all wore bow ties. So you had
Really?
to wear a straight tie or you were not allowed to pass the sacrament. So, and I asked, I was like, are all these rules still in effect? Like a lot of things would have to change in order for me to bring my kids back to that. And I don't want anybody speaking to my kids also like without me being present because I do the same thing at school. If my kid gets called into the principal's office, I will be called. You do not get to talk to my minor child alone. And, like if none of those things are going to be followed, then I'm like, I can't do it. There would have to be so much change. But yeah, so I don't think that door is ever going to be open because I mean, I would hope that there was change. I do think that's why I'm doing this podcast is that I feel like the more awareness that you bring to things, the more that hopefully, it does get back to the church and that it does end up like there's pressure, right, especially with there's a lot of those reality shows right now too that has a lot of Mormons in it. And so I think that like the church is going to have to face it at some point and pivot and make changes. I don't know, is that like wishful thinking? I'm hoping.
No, I think that's part of the process of definitely for you what your experience has been. This is part of your process to transition, and because it is such a big part of your life, and there's so many people going through that right now. It's important that it's good that they have resources to know. And the thing that um, religion moves so slow, and that's part of why people are drawn to it, and that's part of why it is what it is. It doesn't move. I think President Hinckley said, with every wind of doctrine, it doesn't move quickly. And so I'm open to whatever changes they might make, but I think that for us, I think there's other options out there. So, if you are a Christian person, if you want to, there's, I think there's so many people who are similar to you that are going to be in other congregations, and I think that if what we found is living in Central Phoenix, most congregations here that are Christian are very affirming, gay affirming, which is kind of our thing. So for you to find the things that matter to you and your family, I'm sure you could find it if you want a church community, or you do your own thing. I think that's a better option. But I think I have no expectations that the church is going to make these changes. If they do, cool. And maybe we look at it at that point. But the church is going to do its own thing. It's going to be slow. So I kind of accepted that a long time ago, that there's probably, if I wanted church community, I probably need to go elsewhere. Or internally, from a faith standpoint, it's been really fun learning about other religions, Eastern religions, other practices, and people who get a lot out of those. Because for me, that's always been a big part of what the church has done for me. And the church isn't the only option available to us. There are other really great options that match if you're looking for that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to let it do its own thing, and if it does change, and I don't think it would be, I don't think it's going to be fast. I think it will be slow.
Yeah, you're probably right. So, are you happy?
Well, it's been a stressful week at work. I got a lot going on here, a lot of stress. I've been married for 6.5 months, and blending different cultures, because my husband's a different culture, and there's been challenges there, and so life is going to be challenging no matter what, and I'm loving it. I've probably never been more happy.
Well, it sounds like you have a normal marriage, because that is, even if you're trying to blend cultures, it's no different than like, everybody has different backgrounds. Like, we're all raised differently. And then to have that mesh together and trying to figure out, how your household is even going to be ran that first year of marriage is really hard. I wouldn't do that again. Like, if you gave me $1 million, I would not relive that at all. Like, it's awful. It was awful, but yeah. So, but you finally feel like you really found your happiness. Like, this is
Ev-
where you should
ev-
be.
he and I dated for 4 years long distance, and then he moved here, and I have a home here, have a life here. Everything is better with him here. I sleep better. He's brightened up our home. What was just kind of my bachelor pad, now there's plants everywhere. He cooks and loves to cook and make this big meal, and I'm just used to going out to eat, and now we sit down and have a meal together, and I'm cooking more. We wake up in the morning and we do a little reading together. We have a coffee together, which he makes, and then we have tea at night before we go to bed. All of those things, without him, are things he's added in my life that are just better. Let alone now I'm living my life with someone who I really care about. We're sharing our lives together. He's interested in what I'm doing. I'm interested in what he's doing. Somebody's there for me. My whole life is just better with him there. And that's and then on top of the challenges that are there embedded into getting used to it. Overall, there's no doubt that my life is better, and I love what I'm doing right now. I love my business. I love what's happening with my family. And I waited a long time. I was 45, and now we're thinking about the next stage of having kids, because I've been wanting to have kids for a long time. So working on that also, and you can't compare yourself with others, and that was one thing I had to learn early on when my friends were getting married and starting families, because I've wanted to have a family for a long time, wanted to have kids, and you have to let your own timing be your own timing. And I had to learn that. And then I've just trusted that things are going to work out in their own timing. And I am very happy with where I'm at today, and I'm excited for the future. So that's short answer is I love what I'm doing. I wouldn't trade it.
Is there going to be challenges raising children as a gay couple?
For sure, for sure. A lot of challenges. Um, it's a challenge to have a child as a gay couple. No one's pregnant yet. We haven't had that happen. So um, yeah, there's definitely going to be challenges. For me personally, I think it's important that we have either a mother figure or someone who's family, who's close, who's involved. I'm definitely more of kind of a regular, traditional heterosexual guy when it comes to my interests and everything, and my husband's more is going to be able to do a girl's hair, for example, where I will not be able to do it. He'll do it probably better than most women could. So we have different skills, but we talk about that. We talk about how we want to raise our kids, where we want to raise them. Um, and then I also think at some point you go, you know what, the challenges are going to make us better, and we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to do what we want to do, and we're not going to be worried about it. We're just going to go. And it's going to work out. And that attitude has served my life well. We'll just go for it. We'll make it work.
I love that. Well, do you have anything else that you want to share? Any final message to anybody that is maybe having the same struggles?
No, I think just this has been a great interview. I'm glad. I see it still says record, so we're still recording, so that's good. I thought I might have expired the time because we've been going for a while, but um, I appreciate your honesty, your and Brandon's honesty as you've gone through this process. And there's a lot of you kind of lift a burden that you've been feeling when you just talk about things and you just put them out there. And I know other folks who are listening to this are most likely going through similar things. And that's the thing that I wish I had done earlier, is just be honest. Do it earlier so that you can live your life. And I have empathy for people who are in the process right now, because it is a good process. But on the other side of it, the world's good, life is good, and you go live that life. It's waiting for you. That's my parting message.
I love that. I love that. And I also think that it's important to just follow your own intuition, whatever that is, if you have that desire, I mean, it could be anything. It could be if you're married and you, even like as a woman, like I've been married to a man, like it's okay. I think it's okay to say like, hey, you know what? Like maybe I would like to try something else. Like it's okay to have that thought and try something else. That's okay. It's okay to have those, like, I don't know. Like it's okay to act on them if you have those thoughts and try things out. My husband's looking at me like completely sideways, but
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering how he's going to feel
he-
about that.
but like, because I mean, I have a really close friend that was married and had 4 kids, and she was, raised in the Mormon church, and then got a divorce. And she's like, you know what? Like, it just fell into her lap. And she was like, she was with another woman. And is she a lesbian now? No, she goes back and forth. And she's trying to figure out what she is, but she was able to trust herself and trust her intuition and being like, I just want to try that, because she had been told forever, this is what you are, this is what you're supposed to this is what you're supposed to do and follow the path. And she was very good until she wasn't. And like, I just think that it's important for us to trust ourselves.
Yeah, and if you've been just following the rules, and then you kind of open yourself up to listening to yourself, and it's telling you something different, then there's going to be a conflict there, and that inner voice is the most important voice, and you're gonna have to tap into that at some point. And yeah, I'm glad that we'll see how that works out for you and Brandon. I'm not that you're saying you want to, but uh, the the grass isn't always greener on the other side, obviously. But
Yeah.
the
I was speaking about my friend when I was thinking about that. It was that I'm like,
right,
because she buried all of these thoughts for so long and didn't trust herself and thought that her intuition was Satan.
wrong, yeah,
And that's
that
not
doesn't.
always what it is, just because it's different from what you are programmed to think, believe, all of those things. And
No, I think our curiosity, our ideas, those are important things to have. Like, and I'm not just talking about if somebody's curious about kissing a woman or something, but if you close that stuff up and you're not curious about stuff because you have all the answers and everything is set in a certain box, that's a really sad place to be in. And I mean, even with what you're doing here with the podcast, trying something new, experimenting with opening up a new area of conversation, that's important for life. Like um, keep that curiosity and that adventure. Um, that's what I love about it. And when you do, if you do decide, as you guys have, to do a different path, now all these new things open up, and we should try them and listen. And maybe part of that's listening more to what you're curious about and your intuition. I think that voice starts to be a little bit louder as we do that, and it's been tamped down for a long time, far too long.
yeah. So what did we learn today? We got to stay curious.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Stay
it.
curious. Yeah, trust ourselves. I love that. Well, thank
Yeah,
you so much. Thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are, and this is like probably your only time off, and you chose to spend it with me, so I really appreciate it. I hope you know how much it means to me.
yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks for having me.